Welcome to the AXPONA Audio Insider Podcast. My name is Lenny Florentine, and this could be one of the greatest episodes ever because I have with me Bill from Technics. What's happening, man?
How you doing today, Lenny? Great to be with you.
I am doing great, and you know I'm excited when we're talking Technics. It's one of my favorite brands, and I know it's a little controversial, and that's where I'm going to start because that's how I am. And, you know, the one comment that I get on every video, and hundreds of comments, you know, I've done documentaries on Techniques myself and done all kind of things on Techniques, but I get one question, and I've answered it before, but people don't seem to like the answer, but I want to do it one more time for everybody. So, Bill, is it Techniques or is it Technics?
In the U.S., it's Techniques, and in Japan, it's Techniques. But if you go to Europe and the U.K., all around, maybe even New Zealand, it might be, in Australia, it might be Technics. So it's kind of interesting how that all fell into place over the years. But it's certainly spelled incorrectly compared to the word Techniques. What I find, interestingly, is as I search for things on the internet and watch videos and things like that, people are using our spelling to advertise like karate techniques, but it's spelled Technics, So it's a funny thing. I love it. I think it's a great, branding kind of thing that everyone can appreciate in a certain way. So it's a great argument,
It's a great argument. I've got it for years, no matter how many times we explain. So we've done this before. I've interviewed you before with that. One of my favorite things that reminds me of that question is that there's an episode of King of Queens where Doug, the main character, who's played by Kevin James, is wearing a Techniques shirt. It's an episode where he actually buys himself or rents himself a man cave, like apartment above a Chinese restaurant. And he starts working at the Chinese restaurant, and then he starts hanging out in his second house that his wife doesn't know about. And she finds him up there and is like, "What are you doing?" And that whole episode, he's wearing a Technique shirt where it's spelled with the Q, the U, the E, and the S, the way it's pronounced in the U.S. So it makes me wonder, he does wear a lot of T-shirts in his show. I wonder if he's a Techniques guy. I wonder if he's a HiFi guy. I would love to know if Kevin James is a HiFi guy.
You'd be surprised how many people that I've come in contact with that, there's a long list of appreciation, from a lot of celebrities and things like that, that we've learned about over the years, and I think that Techniques has such a reputation as a brand. The SL-1200, I think, was in a Mission Impossible movie.
It was actually how Ethan, I think I got his name right. I love those movies. That was one of the messages in the beginning of the movie, and it just filled the room with a gas and knocked him out. You got to watch out for. Don't put those strobe lights on all the on the turn, like a model coming up where it does a hologram of you and talks to you. I don't know about that, but yeah, it's famous. Techniques has been around for 60 years. We're on the 60th anniversary.
Yes.
Since 1965, where it was all started with the Technics One speaker, and it's grown to one of, if not the biggest hi-fi companies in the world in 60 years.
A lot has happened, that's for sure. Thank you for mentioning that. The first product we came out with was a two-way loudspeaker. It was a two-way bookshelf loudspeaker, and acoustic suspension was kind of the very important thing at the time to get good bass response, wide frequency response in a small package. It was a sealed two-way loudspeaker, and most people think our first product would have been a turntable, but it was actually a loudspeaker.
Yeah, a lot of people relate to the SL-1200, one of the many variations of it. That's without a doubt probably the most famous product. It's in so many movies, TV shows, as we mentioned. But the 60s, when you guys first started, you didn't make turntables at that time, if I'm not wrong.
But
there was
a did.
You did? Oh, okay. I guess I am wrong.
We did. We had and that's again deep in the website in our history. There's a great brand link that you can check about the brand history of Techniques. So there was a turntable look very typically like a Garrard or a Dual of the day, with some wood grain, and it was, I think it may have been automatic, semi-automatic. And
Wow. See, I learn stuff every day, and I've been
yeah,
doing this. I've been doing this for a long time. And you guys had the speaker. You had the 10A amplifier, you had the 20A amplifier, and then had a really nice selection of products in the 60s.
there's quite a appreciation, and a lot of the designs that were done there. We don't really go back and talk about that stuff as much because what we're doing today is so different in the digital world. But back then, everything was analog, of course, and you're building the quietest preamplifier, the very highest quality amplifier designs that you have. We have some things that we designed called New Class A, and applications that we've done in some of these original designs were quite unique at the time, and that stuff is very rare. I don't think I've ever seen that. Some of those original amp and preamplifiers, in real life, those are very collectible. But as you
I'm
get
right there
into
with you.
the big meters, that's a different story. A little more of those are around, but
Then in
yeah,
the 70s,
look,
the Stereo Wars era, I think you guys won that. I think Technics was the winner with the SA1000, the biggest receiver ever made, 330 watts, if I'm not mistaken. And a very rare piece. I've only seen one in person, maybe two, but that's very rare. But hey, you guys won the 70s, which was huge.
yeah,
And then, right, you totally won the 70s, which is when a lot of the turntables really started to drop.
yeah. What happened with Techniques is our focus became very vinyl centric in 1970, where we invented the direct drive motor for turntables. So at the time, if you think back on in the day, the music we listened to was on the radio mostly, and we bought records. So they didn't have cassettes or anything like that. Open reel were around, but the the mainstream was 24/7. The radio stations, excuse me, were spinning vinyl 24/7. And this was really the intrigue. They're using belt-driven turntables. They're using idler drive turntables with parts, moving parts. And when you're spinning vinyl 24/7, your turntables are going to fail. You're going to need to replace something. You need some maintenance and things like that. So when Technics came in with the first SP10, it was just a turntable drive system. Okay, there was no tone arm, and it was really designed to drop into a radio station's console. And they pull out the whatever they had in there. They dropped the SP10 in. They had their tone arm mounted and calibrated, and they would just never look back really because they never had to touch it again. And that meant an important thing to radio stations because you couldn't have dead air time when you had to have delayed time because you only had one turntable. It cost them time, and time was everything in radio. So that was something that was very much appreciated by the industry, by the broadcast industry, DJs, and so on. And it became very popular. So in 1972, the very first SL1200 turntable was introduced, which is a much more affordable, complete turntable system. So that had a tone arm, a dust cover, and you can see some of the very early features of a strobe light and pitch control, but they were rotary controls. And I don't think it had a target light back then. You probably have a picture that we can share. But that was the very first 1200. So direct drive became kind of Japan really, with Techniques leading the way for direct drive, Japan became a huge force in turntables, and direct drive became ubiquitous from all the famous companies. And it was very hard for other brands that couldn't make direct drive at the time. So it was really good for us, and that 1200 series paved the way to, the legend has it like 3.5 to 4 million units sold, and of the 1200 series through the entire life of it. And today it's still around in the same type of style, but all remodified with all new, components, new materials, new technology in the motors and things like that. So that 1200 turntable pretty much set the pace for many things. It also set the pace for professional DJ as it became a tool of the trade of a professional DJ. And the story is on our website if you'd like to read about the very first example of it being used with two turntables to mix some songs. And that was kind of the birth of hip hop and DJism as we know it. And the collaboration between DJs, professional DJs, and people that were working in studios and things helped develop that turntable over the years. So as you see from 1972, in 1979, the very first SL1200 Mark II came out. And that's the iconic design that everyone is familiar with and remembers, and what the new models are styled after. That is the model that Mark II really started the whole ball, like really, really rolling. And that was the tool of the trade for DJs all around the world. As they grab two of those and they put them in their travel cases and they bring them everywhere they went. And that at the time everything was vinyl in the DJ world, so they had to use vinyl. There wasn't mixing digital files and things like that. So the turntables were rugged. They could take a lot of abuse. They can scratch and back cue and stop on a dime and start very quickly. And all the benefits of direct drive contributed to the talent and to the creative aspect of what DJs could do. Everything is on that turntable because it was a collaboration. Where should the pitch fader be? How should the start stop button work? All kinds of things contributed to that design, and it's still an iconic design today. Now, many audiophiles don't have a use for all those things, but it is part of the style, and we paid tribute to that with the new SL1200G turntable that came out in 2016, where it had this coreless direct drive motor. This is the heart of an SL1200G.
That is a large motor.
This is why Technics wanted to get back into the turntable business, because we felt we could contribute and improve on what we actually were so successful with. A coreless design in a direct drive motor is a very expensive thing to do, and at the time we brought it out in 2016. The next closest coreless direct drive turntable is $40,000. So we came out at at $4,000. So it was quite an achievement, and it was very welcome to come back and bring that product back to we've I don't know how many models we have now, a dozen different turntables now, I think. So different colors, different shades. We have anniversary editions, limited.
You guys do a lot of collaborations.
Well, we've done some. We have a new one that we've done with Lamborghini, of all things. And again, the story behind that is the dedication to tuning their engines and getting the perfect sound and the perfect performance. Also, I think a 60-year-old company as well, and getting the notoriety for everything that they do, kind of similar to the dedication everything Technics has done over the years. So it's been a great collaboration, and I encourage you, if you ever get a chance, to listen to the record that we include with that turntable. It's a record that has demonstration of all the different Lamborghini car sounds on the record.
But yeah, I watched a video of that being created, and I'm like, what are they recording? And then I realized at the end that it was all recording for this vinyl that came with the turntable.
Yeah, that's the only way you can get that record, unfortunately. But you want to hear I think it's a 1972 Lamborghini, the Miura. What a sound. I mean, it sounds like you can almost smell the fumes when you crank up the volume on that system on a big rig. It just sounds incredible. They did a great job with the recording. The team did a great job with that. And it's very exciting to be part of that. And, we celebrate the Lamborghini colors, orange, green, and yellow. So that's based on the original Mark VII style, so it makes a great audiophile turntable. It makes a great Pro DJ turntable, whatever your choices are there.
And then I was looking, like you said, there's a whole history of Techniques on the website, and I'm looking at the 90s, and this is the most iconic turntable in the world. Okay, like if there's a turntable featured on something on TV or anywhere, like this is the turntable. Like I don't think there's a question about that. But in the 90s, like this is the DJ era was really coming up. Late 80s, early 90s. Like it was huge. And there's a picture on the website, I'll put it on the screen, of the 1990 the DMC World Championships in the UK, and the literal stage is a Technics 1200 MK2. Like it's wild.
I haven't seen that. That's interesting.
Oh, I love looking at stuff like that. And then 95, you guys had the gold edition. I've always wanted to see that in person. I haven't seen that one. But there's been all these iterations of it leading up into the current models that you guys have, which we're going to get into. but both in the you guys are huge in the home world of hi-fi and the pro world. Two separate things you guys do, but you guys do something really special and very unique in home audio. You guys, the way you do your amplification, your digital amplification is very unique. There's not many people that do it this way. It's an incredible way of doing it. So I would love to hear about that if we can get into that.
Yeah, absolutely. The what Techniques has done since, it's interesting. When we did come back with the brand in 2015 at CES was the first time in the US, and we launched the product line. There were two systems, two complete systems. One was a 65-ish, 65,000 system. The other one was a $6,500 system. And they were true digital amplification. We had digital amplification, which I'll tell you more about in a minute. And at that time in 2015, people were not necessarily streaming high res at that time. They were streaming something. It was a lot of different choices you had, but it wasn't what we have today. So what most people were enjoying as far as audio files were, their own files on their home network. So network attached storage, and you couldn't really leave the house with these original systems. They were designed to play what was on your network, and you could AirPlay to it and things like that from your phones and things like that. So it was digital networking. The birth of that was really covered with everything that we made then, and high resolution loudspeakers that could extend to 100,000 hertz. So we could deliver everything that is in a high resolution recording. But mainly the digital amplifier was what's different. And Technics digital amplifier is a completely different, as you say, from other systems. What we do is, as all the things we're dealing with, especially today, whether it's video, audio, podcast, whether we're listening to YouTube, all these signals are coming to us in digital form. So why would we want to, take that digital form out of its original bit stream and sort of change it to analog and then play it? There's no reason to actually change it to analog unnecessarily. So all these digital sources that a Technics amplifier receives are processed digitally. They never go into an analog domain. So the digital amplifier process also processes the digital. So there's no digital to analog conversion as you would have with a typical integrated amp or an amp and a DAC and a preamp and so on. So you would take any digital source and you'd connect it to the digital input, and you would enjoy the amplifier pristine interpretation of that digital bit stream, whether it's direct stream digital, whether it's FLAC files, high resolution WAV files, Apple AirPlay. All these are, digital files that come to us. If you're streaming, you can stream whatever device you're using to stream from Tidal or from Qobuz. You can pull that signal, keep it directly digital right into the amplifier, so it never has to be converted. There must be something that's lost in the translation when that's done. That was the idea, is that we wanted to leave the bit stream in its pristine form. So having the ability to just treat that digitally, deal with all the, our Geno engine takes the digital signal in and it lines everything up so the amplifier can work in pulse width modulation mode, PCM, pulse PWM mode, and it sends it electrically to the speakers without having to make a digital analog conversion. It's a little tough to get your arms around when you think about it. It's like, how could that be possible? We've done many demonstrations at shows and events, and we've been awarded many awards on these. In fact, Stereophile magazine just gave us awards on 6 different products, 2 of them being amplifiers, 3 of them being turntables, and 1 of them being our new active networking loudspeakers. I think what happens is that there's a tradition with audiophiles and ourselves, even myself, I had to think about what we were doing when we first brought this product line back, but it made perfect sense to me, is that, we're used to using DACs, and we're used to using that. That's the most important thing. Got to have a really high quality DAC to, send that pristine signal to your high quality preamp or your integrated amp and things like that. So, Techniques has kind of eliminated the need for that in the process of digital amplification. It's our proprietary design. And What I will clarify is a lot of people immediately think of, when you mention digital amplifier, a lot of people think immediately that it's a Class D amplifier. And Class D is actually not necessarily, D is not necessarily for digital. In fact, a Class D amplifier first needs to operate in analog before it can do anything else. So a Class D amplifier is not a digital amplifier. So we need to make sure that people understand that what we're doing is different, and it does contribute its own, pedigree that we've designed in our own products, and that it needs to be considered, I think, in a different light. Not that anything's wrong with Class D. I think that we're really happy that there's more technology coming out, and that there's more and more capability. It's a very affordable type of product. Class D can fit into a lot of lower price products and still give great performance, but it's truly not a digital amplifier like Technics. And ours is our own design. There are other digital amplifiers out there, I think, if you look hard enough. But again, this is our proprietary design, and what we're doing in there gives us the ability to do a lot of other things. Once that digital bit stream comes into the amplifier, one of the first things that we do is we allow the amplifier to learn the characteristics of the loudspeaker. And that's called LAPC, Load Adaptive Phase Calibration. And that allows the amplifier to learn how best to drive that loudspeaker, no matter what speaker you connect to it. You take about 90 seconds out of your life to push a button, and you'll hear a couple of test tones, and you'll listen, and the amplifier will arrive at a understanding of how better to drive that speaker in terms of gain and phase, some electrical differences. And most people will just leave it on forever. If not, if you don't like it, you can turn it off. I don't know many people that turn it off, but a lot of people say it improves the low frequency is what they notice most immediately. But it varies from speaker to speaker. All the speakers have their own characteristics. If we talk about all this all this vintage stuff, and if some people use tube amplifiers and horn loudspeakers, right? And they use low-powered tube amplifiers because they match up better. There's a better synergy. So same thing with electrostatic speakers. You need real powerful, a lot of headroom on your amplifier and good drive for the that kind of synergy. But so Technics is kind of handling some of that for us. Where it can just have a better understanding of driving the speaker. So it isn't quite as critical, I think, in that sense. But it's one of the things that you can do with a digital amplifier that you can't do otherwise. It's a digital process that's designed into the amplifier. That's just one of the many things. But all our digital amplifiers that are in the where you see the power meters, they have that feature, and it's great. It's a great feature to have. And like I say, you're not married to it. You can turn it on, turn it off. You can make comparisons. The other things about the Technics amplifier, in particular that SUR 1000, has a very special, has a lot of digital connectivity. As I said, this is what these amplifiers are designed for. It's not a networking amplifier. We do also make networking amplifiers, which take in everything directly. So you have your networking system, and you have your amplifier, and everything's in one. But this is an integrated amplifier. You still have to provide the streaming service or the source of the digital to it. But that's what's great about it. It has, I think it has 2 coaxial inputs, 2 optical inputs. It has 2 PC inputs, which can be, USB DACs and things like that. Whatever your signal is coming in, they can be connected to it digitally. And it has balanced inputs as well for analog, and it has a single phono input, but you can have balanced or unbalanced phono input. And so as much as this is a fully digital amplifier, that being the understanding, when an analog product is connected to it, say a turntable or a tape deck, in the case of ours, we do have a phono stage in there, a really high quality phono stage. It's a very special Technics phono EQ, which does a lot of different things. And that is a product of Technics digital amplifier, where we can do things inside that once we have that signal in the digital amplifier. So, of course, remember we talked about the digital signals coming into the amplifier without any need for convergence, right? They're kept digital. When you connect an analog device to it, you need to actually convert that from analog to digital. So we're actually using a very high quality analog to digital converter to treat any of the analog inputs. So when you connect your turntable to it, it's going to immediately convert that into a like 2496 or depending on the amplifier you have and larger type of process. And 2496 is easily enough to resolve whatever's on a vinyl record. So it's a much larger environment for it to process. So it's actually going to turn that signal into a digital signal so that the amplifier can understand it. And then once it's in the digital domain, we have the ability to do many things. So if you remember, I talked about the LAPC function to understand how best to drive the loudspeaker. The phono preamp can understand how best to drive or receive the signal from the cartridge. As it's also a transducer like a loudspeaker, a similar system is done, and this is probably the only amplifier in the world that comes with a test record. The amplifier comes with a test record. So you put the test record on your turntable and you play a segment on there, and the amplifier will listen to it, and you'll kind of hear some things going on, and it'll make a process of what it's heard, and it will adjust the cartridge to be as accurately matched to the phono preamp as possible, not the typical 47,000 ohms in standard setting. And even if you didn't do that, you don't have to do it, by the way. It's just a feature that you can do. Once it does learn those qualities, you can save that setting for that particular cartridge. Let's say it's Ortofon 2M Black or something. You can save the settings for that. And you can save up to 3 different cartridges in the phono preamp. So you can save one for your Nagaoka cartridge, you can save one for your Ortofon cartridge, save one for my old Shure V15 Type 5 Micro Ridge, and they can be moving coil or they can be moving magnet. And on top of that, there's some other things that you can turn on and off. In the process, it sets all this up for you. So it sets up a signal to remove crosstalk. So crosstalk in all types of audio is persistent. It's just on a record, it's a little more so. And what the process is doing in the digital, once it's in the digital domain, is removing that crossover, bleed over from the one channel to another that improves the soundstage and helps you, hear music and instruments more. And the end result is more spatial, and separation is improved and things. All the things that we work at trying to get perfect azimuth adjustment and all those channel separation improvements that we get, part of that by eliminating crosstalk is a great feature to be able to do that. So it's this calibration process that's in this preamp that you can turn on and off if you want to do A/B comparisons and if you feel it's making that much of a difference or not. You can change it. You'll see differences with all the different cartridges that you connect, just like if you connected different loudspeakers, you'd appreciate differences there. So it's there for your full usage to enjoy all the capabilities. And again, it takes maybe 15 minutes to set that up for each cartridge because you got to run the test record. It takes 7.5 minutes for the amplifier to digest it all. But it's something that we're doing. Again, I've never seen that done in any other phono preamp. And in addition to that, there are EQ curves that have been created through, the 40s, 50s, 60s that are on all our records. If you're a collector, you can appreciate these things. So we have the ability to choose and play 7 different EQ curves. So RIAA is the standard curve. We have Columbia. I think we have Decca. I think RCA is another one that all the record companies had used over the years to equalize the recording process onto the vinyl. And then when these records are played back with the proper equalization, they do tend to sound a lot better. So this is something that can be done with the touch of a button on the remote control.
I didn't even know anything like that even existed, and I've used these amps and listened to them before, but to know that you could program, 3 different cartridges, set the speakers so like it, the amp can learn the speakers, learn the cartridge. I mean, you guys are the leader in turntables and vinyl, right? So everybody's playing vinyl, everybody's using your turntables, but now your amp can make that vinyl listening process even better by giving you the opportunity to like swap out cartridges, and the amp will like be tuned to them. And then not only that, but now we're tuning it to the records. Like that's amazing. That's just crazy. And not just that, but like, I've used your CD player. You have an amazing CD player. that goes with these, the 700,
Yeah, yeah.
and
SLG
just
700. Yeah.
and not only is vinyl back, but a lot of people are saying CDs are back. I know a lot of people that use CDs, and having a really good CD player like that is incredible. But you guys do have, getting sliding past the CD players. It really is a nice CD player. But you guys have a new turntable out now.
We do. We have two new products were introduced in September. We brought them to the press attention and we launched them toward the end of the year here in the US. They were launched at IFA. And we have one new turntable called the SL1300G. And as much as everyone loves this SL1200 iconic style that we talked about, we've been making that in a number of different forms, different model numbers in the current line based on that coreless direct drive system. The iconic design may not be necessary for a lot of audiophiles because they aren't going to really, there's really no need to change the pitch control when we listen to a record at home. There is a couple of things I can point out. Everyone knows the story about Miles Davis Kind of Blue. The original record was the tapes were 3% off when they transferred it to vinyl or something like that. So that's about the only time I think I would appreciate changing the pitch control at home when I'm listening to records, unless I was DJing. But that other purpose for it is you can adjust for inaccuracies of speed with 78 RPM. That is really important to people that use 78 RPM. So having that pitch fader can give you adjustments for audiophiles in that purpose. Otherwise, it's part of the original Pro DJ style and design. Same thing with the very quick start and quick stop and the pitch, the strobe etchings and the target light and things like that. Most audiophiles really have no use for it. So what we've been asked to do, and we've actually introduced, our turntable line is designed after that 1200 styling, but we introduced something called an SL1500C many years ago, and that's been very popular. That's more of a HiFi style audiophile type turntable. We remove the pitch fader, we remove the target light, remove the strobe etchings and the strobe light, and it kept the Technics pedigree underneath and in the tone arm and in the motor. It's just that it didn't have all those, the iconic style of the 1200. So we do very, very well with that. It's called an SL1500C. It also has a coreless direct drive motor, and it has it comes with a cartridge. It has a built-in phono preamp if you choose to use it, and it has auto lift at the end. So there's some great features in that model at $1299, very affordable in comparison, and it still has the heart of a, and pedigree of a Technics, coreless direct drive system. So this new turntable that we have looks very similar. It's just that we've taken the very best aspects of the 1200G model, the flagship $4,300 model, and we've put the best capabilities of the platter. It's a 3-layer platter, and it has this also the twin rotor coreless motor inside the 1300. So this is the same motor that's in the 1200G and the 1300. So we have all the audiophile, most important audiophile functionality of a 1200 in a more suitable turntable for most people's appreciation style-wise. It's actually a new system governing that motor. It's called Technics Delta Sigma drive system. So it's combined with a very special power supply. So those two things, the Delta Sigma drive system, which again is a digital function. You think about these turntables as analog devices, but truthfully, there's a lot of digital technology in our turntables. And even that 1200G, interestingly enough, there's actually a firmware. It can be firmware updated.
Wow, that is
It
amazing.
can be firmware updated. It hasn't happened yet, but it can be. There's also a jump drive for USB in some of these. So behind the control of the motor in all our new turntables has been digital technology. And the very first series came from our technology from our Blu-ray technology division. As the discs change speed quite a bit, you don't realize because you're watching a movie, but their rotational speed goes, I don't know, from all kinds of, it goes up to like 800 RPM, but the speed actually changes quite a bit. So you have to make sure that that's all done properly with Blu-ray disc and DVD. So we've adapted that technology to drive the very first, the flagship models, the 1200G and so on. But what happened is with the new design that we have in the 1200 GR2 and this 1300G, this is known as the fourth generation of Technics direct drive. So the first generation being that SP10 we designed in 1970, the very first turntable that we made for direct drive. The second generation was the quartz lock era. That would be the 1200 Mark II and everything that came after that. SP10 Mark II, even SP10 Mark III were part of the the second generation. And now the third generation was what we brought to market in 2016 with that 1200G. That's the coreless direct drive. That's everything that's behind that twin rotor system, and that new drive system that governs that system is the third generation. So what we have now is the fourth generation of Technics direct drive, which uses the Delta Sigma drive system. Again, Delta Sigma is the basis of PCM, and it's the digital drive system that governs that motor now. Now, the whole idea of coreless direct drive was to remove micro vibrations from the equation, so that when a platter is attached directly to that motor, you want absolutely minimal vibration so that it doesn't mar any of the sound at all. All these years I've been listening to Technics turntables. I never heard cogging myself, but people talked about it, and it was, the belt drive, idler drive camp used it to sell against direct drive, as direct drive, I told you, was, very, very popular and tough to sell against if you were a belt drive brand. But, maybe it did, I guess it certainly could happen. It's just, to what degree did we really notice that difference, and we needed to remove that cogging effect from our new design, so that as we're bringing out this audiophile turntable in 2016, we had the right approach for audiophiles to appreciate that all our hard work, we remove the cogging from the equation, because, as I mentioned, these are coreless motors. So a coreless design in a motor removes that cogging effect. Again, without having some pictures to show you, it's a little difficult to explain, but the micro vibrations have been eliminated, is the idea with all these new models since 2016. But what's interesting is you learn a few tricks, you learn a few things about your products as you study them and as you redesign and work hard to improve things, as our company always does. They learn that they can, with digital technology, they can refine that process even more. So this Delta Sigma drive system actually analyzes that signal and can remove even more micro vibrations. So the bottom line, when you're when you're trying to calibrate your cartridge and you're trying to get that compliance where you have between 9 and 14 hertz, that area of frequency where you're using your test records and you're setting up your VTA and you're setting up your azimuth to get the best channel separation, you're going to experience less possible micro vibrations. So that area is even freer now to respond even more. And what I notice when I hear these two new turntables are that they're very open and clear, and I hear instruments sort of in the sound stage placed more accurately. I can hear a little better separation. Having listened to these turntables day in and day out for 10 years now, I do hear a difference immediately when they gave us these first samples. So it was very interesting to appreciate this. And I think if anyone took the time to listen to these new turntables, they can hear immediately these differences. And we're very happy with it, and we're getting a lot of reviews and a lot of great awards on these turntables. The SL1300 just received a Class B recommendation from Stereophile in the April issue, so it's very well appreciated, the efforts that we're doing, and I encourage you to take a look. It comes in silver and black, and it's just a gorgeous turntable. The greatest part about Technics turntables, I think, for people involved, that you can get one of our models and set it up in 15 minutes. And you can sit back and enjoy your system in 15 minutes. Or you can tweak to your heart's content, because there's all types of adjustments that can be made. And if you want to pursue any of those things, they're very easy to adjust VTA, SRA, anti-skate, everything that you want to adjust. You can try different cartridges, different head shells, interchangeable head shells. You can change the platter mats. You can change the footers. You can change the cables. You can change the AC cords. What else can you do? You can add fluid dampers. You can add auto lifts. Just every.
You can do all kind of stuff with the turn. Absolutely. I mean, to your heart's content, you can just add and take away stuff. And we talked about the amp earlier, how that could even make adjustments to customize your turntable. Putting a little bit of digital technology in the turntable is a really interesting thing. You would not really think that that's possible, but it is, and that's really cool. But like nowadays, where vinyl is coming back, digital music is also a huge thing. I mean, everybody's streaming and listening to systems through their TV and just other digital sources, whatever it is. But if let's say they wanted a turntable, but they didn't want to get the whole stereo system. I mean, this is a thing. Like some people just want it minimalistic, design. Maybe they only have so much space and they want to play vinyl, but they also want to stream. There's another new product that you guys have that really takes care of this problem, where you can hook a turntable to it and you can stream, and that would be your new speakers. You have powered speakers now, which is something pretty new for Technics,
Yes.
which is a very in thing. Everybody's kind of doing powered speakers. They make a lot of sense in a lot of systems, but I'm willing to guess that you guys have kind of upped the game on these to make them even more compatible with turntables and everything like that as well.
It is our first active loudspeaker. So all the things that we talked about with the benefits in the digital amplifier, right? We didn't talk about our loudspeakers too much, but we took the concept that we put in our digital amplifiers and we put that into each speaker, but we made them bi-amplified. So there's a high frequency digital amplifier and a low frequency digital amplifier. And there is a Geno engine to govern the bit stream for each one of those. And they're controlled and set from the factory to drive I think it's a 5 or 6 inch driver, which is a coaxial design. So in addition to that very, very future forward digital amplification, where we apply the LAPC concept at our factory level. We know the characteristics of the loudspeaker, so we don't have that function that you have to actually perform that, but it's incorporated in its design to drive that coaxial two-way loudspeaker, which is in a very, very special cabinet. The speaker's about this big. It's called the SCCX 700. They're a stand mount or a bookshelf type loudspeaker. They come in 3 different finishes, and you can choose whatever color you like. They're very easy to place, but having that digital amplification as the power source for these, literally all you have to do is plug each one into the wall and to your power source. And then they're also networking active loudspeakers. So there are active loudspeakers out there, many are out there, but these are actually networking active loudspeakers. So all the digital sources we talked about enjoying through our DACs or through our digital amplifiers, again, all digital bit streams. So we have the ability to pull into these loudspeakers with the touch of an app, by the way, or a handheld remote. You open up the app and you put the speakers on your Wi-Fi network. You get the speakers on in about 5 minutes, you're up and ready to go. And then you enter your credentials for your streaming services and you're ready to go. So think about all the things that you have with that Technics app and these new active loudspeakers. You have internet radio to reach radio globally. You can reach, BBC in London, you can Radio Japan, whatever internet radio stations you want to reach, you can reach out and program those into the networking portion of it. You can also reach podcasts. You can do podcasts with it. You can do Spotify, Tidal, Qobuz, Deezer, Amazon Music. It's Google Cast. It's Apple AirPlay. It is Roon Ready.
They could be listening to this podcast right now on those.
So I was going to mention you'll be able to, if you're available on that network, we'll look up your podcast and we'll listen to it. But so this is what's so great about it is all these things are digital sources and they all can come into that environment of these active loudspeakers without being converted to analog to digital. It's coming in digital. It stays digital right from Malmo, Switzerland. If you're listening to Tidal, it comes right from their service in digital and it stays digital. And I like that. And I think that adds to the pristine appreciation that you'll enjoy listening to these. And another interesting part of that is the Roon Readiness is a product. Roon is a great partner, and having that flexibility to see all the music that's on my network, that's in my house, that's on Tidal, that's on Qobuz, and just see it all in one environment. And it works, it interfaces very well with our app. It's so easy to use. So audiophiles really will appreciate that. The other thing that's digital, what else is digital? Okay, we're going to watch this podcast too, right? We might watch it on our television.
I mean, you're going to be watching it on YouTube, so you got to be able to listen to YouTube through it.
Right, but you might watch it on, say, an iPad. That's one way, but you could watch it on your 65-inch OLED, and you can HDMI ARC from that to the speaker as well. So this is also something we spent a little additional time, being that Technics is part of Panasonic, as our parent company, by the way, if I hadn't mentioned that. Having them behind us allows us to access quite a lot of technology. And as Panasonic is one of the founding members of the HDMI consortium, they understand how to move the digital information across HDMI. And what happens when we ARC from on two of our products, SUGX70 and these new CX700 loudspeakers, we blank out the video portion coming into that input. There's no need we're only processing the audio. So they've found a way to eliminate and zero out the video so that only the amplifier has to deal with an audio signal. So it allows it to just be a little bit more effective at that. So the sound from all your sources is going to be exceptional. And that covers all the digital. And of course, it wouldn't be a Technics product without a nice Technics phono preamp built into it. So we put in a very nice ADC and a very nice Technics moving magnet phono preamp that you can connect to. And we've demonstrated it with the 1300 at shows. I listened to it here in my studio, and we've done a lot of demos with it. And the vinyl appreciation through that system can really, really, we didn't miss a trick on that one. So, you want the best of digital, you want the best of vinyl. For its price point, these speakers sell for $3,000 a pair. And they do all this for you. And they're in a very special cabinet that has the amplification mounted in the rear of the cabinet. And the speaker is in a separate kind of
there's a solid wall between the amp and the speaker to help separate the two.
That interference there's a lot of air moving inside because it's a ported system. So what's great about them being a ported system, they're ported from the front. So they can easily be put in a bookshelf, they can be put on a stand mount in a corner, and you're not going to get the chuffing of the port behind the speaker and conducting too much inside a bookshelf, for instance. And the app actually has ability to set the speakers for free space, for corner placement, for bookshelf placement. They have a built-in EQ, room equalization, which will turn on a microphone in the speaker itself, and it'll sort of listen to its environment and set itself up the best that it could for that. And then if that isn't enough, you can take your iOS device from your listening position, and you set it up like this, and it'll run some test tones similar to what you heard with LAPC. Different system, of course, but tones like that. And, hear a bunch of beeps and blips, and, 20 seconds later, you'll have a room equalization for your listening position. And it'll show you a curve before and a curve after, and you can accept it, and there's your listening position. You can keep changing it. It's very easy to do. So this is a really great choice for someone that just wants one, like I say, plug the right speaker in the wall, plug the left speaker in the wall, and get it on your Wi-Fi network, and you're done. If you want to connect things to it, you can. As I say, HDMI ARC is a wired connection. If you want to transfer higher resolution between the two speakers, you can connect Ethernet and transfer 24.192. They can communicate 24.96 wirelessly. So it's a great package, and I think people are really enjoying them. We've got a lot of reviews. We recently got a Class B recommendation on those from Stereophile. As there are not a lot of active networking loudspeakers out there now. We were one of the first to really do everything that we're doing all in one, especially with the digital amplification, the bi-amplification. There's some other things that I could talk about with these speakers that, they're in the mid price point for networking active loudspeakers. I think that ranges from, maybe 2,200 to 5,000 or more. We're kind of in the middle of the pack, but we're doing things that are completely unique with the digital amplifiers and the HDMI that I mentioned. But we're also using this very special coaxial driver that has a very special ring tweeter. So it's almost like it's not a it's a different system than we've used in any of our speakers, and it allows the tweeter the freedom to really reproduce its higher frequencies without any type of effect from the other driver. And there's a special tuned focus device that's on there as well. And that speaker is driven by another acronym called MBDC, which is a model-based driver construction that allows the amplifier to listen and understand how the speaker is behaving under duress, say, is the simplest way to explain it. So when the speaker is really being driven, a small driver has got to do a lot of duty to reproduce low frequencies. And when you're working with a 5 or 6 inch driver, these speakers can monitor their activity and kind of be controlled by the amplifier so that they stay within the bounds that they should stay in and not create distortion. So it's a model-based driver control, MBDC. So that's another function of only a digital amplifier can give us. And that's a new feature for these. So we're pretty excited about that. And another thing is, here's another one for you. Balanced driver mounting architecture is another feature that we talked about, how the cabinet is separated. The website has very detailed images of all this stuff, but the amplification and the connectivity is all in its own cabinet in the back, divided by a very solid space, keeping the tune port, the driver in its own environment. But traditional speakers are mounted to the front baffle of a loudspeaker, with screws, right? You put in a screw here, and you screw the driver into the front of the baffle of the cabinet. Well, our speakers are actually mounted on an internal baffle. So there's actually 2 baffles. There's a front baffle and there's an inner baffle that the speaker is mounted to, and it gets pulled against the outer baffle to give it even more stable and become more rigid. And if you think about some of the improvements many companies have made in loudspeakers in the last 5 years or so, they've been making improvements to the baffle so that it adds less coloration to what, the frequencies these drivers are putting out are, there's a lot of vibration going on. And if that front baffle is not tended to eliminate any kind of resonance and things like that, this is a very important thing. And a lot of what goes into the design of all our loudspeakers are computer-aided design. So they're not just listening with microphones and things. They're using computers to see what's happening to the sound, how that sound wave is being changed and manipulated, and all these things that we're doing in our digital world can correct a lot of those inaccuracies and problems. So when you hear these speakers, I think you'll be quite amazed. I think when I demonstrated them at the Capitol Audio Fest, that was in the same room as a $25,000 system with huge loudspeakers that are dealer provided. And we had these as a secondary system. And when I was demonstrating, everyone thought it was the $25,000 system that was playing. So, and I was just amazed. The room had some, sound treatment, some acoustic treatment. So that helped a bit. But people were just amazed at that presentation, and I enjoy them as I listen. And as I say, they've been highly reviewed all around the world. And we've, as I said, we're recently awarded Class B recommendation in stereophile. So very excited to be showing these new models at AXPONA. And if you come to see us at AXPONA, we'll have the full line of Technics products there. And we'll have these new active loudspeakers. We'll have the new 1300. We'll have our reference turntable. We're partnering with a company called Nagaoka cartridges, phono cartridges, also a fine maker of needles for many, many years, and they also make excellent cartridges. And they're going to be demonstrating their product in a room near ours on a Technics system, like an SUR 1000, SBG 90 Mark II loudspeakers, and the new SL 1300G turntable. So you'll be able to hear Technics in a few more rooms this year than we had in the past. So we're looking forward to using their cartridges in our room as well. And there's a lot in store if you come to visit us there. And I think you'll appreciate everything that we're going to be talking about this year. So.
Yeah, it's always a very popular room, and every time I go in there, I come to see you, and I come to see what's new, and it's always very crowded. There's a lot of great products. I mean, it's Techniques. Who doesn't want to go listen to that and see that in person? And there's one other product that I just want to quickly mention for those that want a little more minimalistic, lifestyle. Maybe you're on the go. You can't just take that 1300 and shove it in your pocket and listen to vinyl on the go. But you guys have actually got into the earbud space, doing some portable wireless earbuds. And I'm sure you have technology in there that I haven't heard, because every single thing that we've talked about, you've been blowing me away with new technology that I didn't even know existed when I've used some of this as well. So tell me a little bit about these and what people can expect if they were to go, because a lot of people have AirPods, right? And I don't, they don't do anything special, but they're there. But, having Techniques in my ears would be much better, I think.
I agree. And I think they look cooler too. But what we've done with these, the true wireless earbuds are ubiquitous. So many different choices that are out there. And what Technics does to make us unique is we're doing a number of different things. Some of it has to do with fit. Some of it has to do with sound. Some of it has to do with quality of sound for music and quality of sound for voice communication. Don't forget, we're all talking about sound and the quality of what we're listening to. But truthfully, when someone gets earbuds, they're going to walk around with them. They're going to go on a train, a plane. They're going to be having conversations. They're going to be maybe in their ears all day. So there's a lot of attention to the quality of the voice quality. And that's something Technics has, again, a lot of expertise with because of Panasonic. We've made cell phone communications. Have been the largest manufacturer of cordless phones. And we've made business telephones, and we have speaker phones over the years, and you name it. So we're very focused on communications. We know what to do with voice technology and communicating that. So our voice quality is very, very high on these. And a lot of people don't think about that when they're just listening to music, generally, is how they base their decision. So it's interesting when you start making calls with these. Another special feature about these are that they have the ability to connect to 3 different devices at once. So you can take a call at just tapping between, say, my laptop, my iPhone, or my iPad. And I think that's something that may be unique to Technics. So it's very easy to switch between devices and switch to take a call and say, hold on, let me take this call, and things like that. So very convenient in that respect. They have very special microphones inside. There's a number of different microphones that will give you clearer voice sound, not only in your voice, but in the incoming voice as well. Again, digital processes, right? So the voices that come into you that you're hearing are going to be digitally adjusted so that they isolate just the voice as opposed to all the surrounding noises, say from a train or a subway or an airline or something like that. So I encourage people to listen to, certainly listen to the sound quality for music and all the things they enjoy, but also check out the voice quality. It's exceptional. These are based on the driver that it's a 10 millimeter driver that's in our EAH TZ 700. These are they're $1,300 in-ear monitors. So we use that driver, and it actually has a magnetic fluid around the diaphragm to keep it resilient and cooled as it drives. And that's something that is unique in this design. This is a very, very affordable product with incredible technology. So we based it with that new driver diaphragm in there, and it really improves that punch in the low end. And it helped us to redesign it so it's slightly smaller, and it has what they call a concha fit. So it fits inside the concha mold of your ear. So they're more comfortable. They have incredible charge time, and They also are optimized for Dolby Atmos. So if someone were using these for listening to movies or listening to all the new spatial audio that's on all the different services, they would enjoy the Dolby Atmos capability. And they also are LDAC and they're high resolution compatible through LDAC devices. So really for $299, they're amazing. They come in silver or black. They're called the AZ100, EAH AZ100. So it's an incredible product, and we'll make sure you get a set to review and
Yeah, I
enjoy.
have to put them in the ears to replace these AirPods that just die on me constantly and sound. They don't always have the between these and other ones that I use, the call quality is something that usually lacks. So that's very exciting coming from Panasonic, who's been making phones for who knows. I mean, I don't know how long, just a long, long time. To have that technology put in as well is amazing. And Techniques being around for 60 years and one of their best product offerings ever is going on right now. It's just amazing. Just, the stuff you guys are going to have at AXPONA and the digital processing that goes into everything and the digital amps and all this technology that I'm trying to educate myself on a little bit more. But you did a great job telling me all about it. So I feel educated. I hope you guys feel educated out there watching this of just, their amps are different than anything else that they're out on the market. These are very, very nice, a different kind of technology. It's amazing. And of course, the turntables, I don't have to say anything more about that. You guys are turntables, Techniques, go hand in hand. So just a lot of great stuff. It was great talking to you. It was great catching up and talking about these 60 years of Techniques and all the new products that are out now, including a couple new releases that we'll get to see at AXPONA. It's going to be a great time at the show. I can't wait to go. But thank you so much for coming on the show. It was an amazing time.
Thank you, Lenny, and it was great to be here and spend some more time with you. As I said, we never really have enough time to catch up on everything, and it's great to be part of this. And you do such a super job with these videos. I enjoy watching every time there's a new one. I sit down and enjoy that after dinner every night rather than.
You'll never know where I'll end up next.
Yeah, that's true. So I think the industry and I think that just consumers in general look forward to hearing what you have to say next. So keep up the great work with that. And everything you're doing is just super. So, and we're just very happy to be part of it and looking forward to seeing you out there and looking forward to seeing all the folks come and visit us. And we have some interesting demonstrations, some great music, some great old vinyl planned and some great digital content. So we'll enjoy demonstrating everything for you.
It's going to be a great time. I can't wait to go. But for the Audio Insider podcast from AXPONA, I'm Lenny Florentine, Bill from Techniques. Thanks for coming out, and we will see you guys next time.